technology readiness level. After that, there is no funding. So that is a perpetual issue that we are facing in this ecosystem, that up to certain point, proof of concept or something, the funding is there. However, when it comes to scale up, when it comes to pilot scale manufacturing or scale up, the funding is definitely not there. The venture capitalists, the actual venture capitalists will come much stage later, meaning that when it's a growth stage company. However, to reach that growth stage company, there is early stage venture funding is missing component in our ecosystem. There is a program in SIBRI, BIPP in BIRAC, SIBRI and BIPP, which can to some extent fill this gap. Then there is a Kitwen Venture Fund, which is our own department, Department of Electronics, IT, BT and S&T. They have set up Kitwen Fund, Biotech Fund, which is early stage, I would say 2.53 crores fund. Of course, they need a matching fund. So overall, this is the scenario. However, I think we need some more role models, some more successful entrepreneurs who can inspire the young youth. So those aspects we are missing. The second important aspect is the established players should interact with startups. We have to have a platform where established players, so if there is no funding, the established players can have a strategic partnership with these startups. We have set up this in Bangalore Bioinnovation Center, where many companies have come, many established players have come to the startups and they have partnered with them. So the early stage venture funding is obviated, and it gives more plethora of opportunities for them to, for exit also. For example, this can be acquired by that company, okay? The valuation increases. The valuation has to increase, and that is the gap that these companies, the bigger companies, can provide. So I think these are some of the ideas and reflections I can put forward to your comment.
I have a couple of things to add. You wanted to say something? Okay, just to answer his question, there are two things. I always say anyone who is doing the business has to stay relevant to the demands of the customer. And that is the most important thing. Unless until you continuously innovate yourself, even as a startup or a big company also need to continuously innovate. At the same time, education system also need to innovate, and we are actually lagging behind that. But rest of the company, when we talk about the startup ecosystem, lot of innovation is continuously required. Today, what you think a customer needs and I am creating to solve some problem, tomorrow it may not be there. It may be some other thing that you have to understand. And there the issue comes. And yes, there are, as Jitendra has, there are some problems, ups and downs with almost all companies, they face it. The same way like cricketers face in his lifestyle, sometimes he is top and sometimes he is even in the bottom. You have to look into all those challenges, continuously innovate and evolve yourself to keep the pace with the economy and the customer demand in the society. That's what.
Just to add to that, if you ask me personally, business is business, okay? Your startup, your 100 years old company, business is business. We segregate for our convenience that you are a startup and you are an established player. Startup means you are low in experience, less in volume. There is a potential for scalability, okay? That is the things that we segregate. Otherwise, business is business. You take layoffs, they happen in established companies, they happen in startups. So all these things, ups and downs, will happen when you enter the business. And we enter with that risk in mind that there will be some days ups, there will be some days downs. So we will have to deal with it. Now, what we also advocate people is follow three things, at least three E's: ethics, environment, and economics. Okay, so first in that same order, there should be ethics in what you do so that it will drive the proper environment. It could be natural environment or business environment. Good ethics will drive environment, better environment. Good environment and conducive environment will drive the economy. But what we generally do, we focus the reverse order. Economy is first. मेरे को चाहिए मतलब चाहिए. I want it. okay, at any cost. We focus on economy. Then because there is a pressure from outside, we try to correct the environment. Okay, either the nature is affected that we want to correct it, climate change, so on and so forth, or we correct the business environment because people are leaving, there is iteration and all that. So we are trying to correct the environment, and finally comes the ethics. Okay, which I forgot. So I at least personally I would always tell that follow in the same order. Follow ethics, environment will come, economics will follow. Okay, there is no way economics is going to go anywhere. Economy will follow, but then it is a slow and a steady ladder that we need to climb. Definitely. Thank you with that.
But what is the sustainable energy level? What is the end holding for them? I think it's a fine everywhere. Everything is fantastic what you people have told. But where is the encouraging point from that? There is no encouragement at all. It is only procedure you people are highlighting. There are people, good people, they are not have enough energy to sustain for some times. You need to recognize them and enroll them. That is most important.
Yes, sir. Sir, please.
This is mostly philosophical question that you are asking, that what is the encouragement for the longer term. Actually, yeah, let me tell you. Let me tell you in this way. Most of the time we have seen, I differ a bit with Jitendra, that when agri entrepreneur comes, mostly it is agriculture graduates. No, it is mostly engineers we have seen. Around 80% engineers we have seen who never has probably entered the agricultural field, but they are doing very good entrepreneurship. They try to understand. The zeal has to come within. The zeal has to come within, that I have to do something to the society. A problem statement is there which I am going to solve, and that in doing this process, ethically, I will also get some share of the value that I am creating out of the whole scenario. The moment what he says, ethics is the very important thing in the whole startup journey, and we find that many of the times this is lacking in the system. We are trying to do incubation systems are there which are trying to mend this within the people. As on date, for not only for this entrepreneurship, for anything, we wanted to say, यार उसको 10 रुपए दे दो काम हो जाएगा, 50 रुपए दे दो काम हो जाएगा. The moment that's very important thing. The moment you enter into that, your level of energy starts decreasing. The moment your energy level starts decreasing, the environment gets vitiated, and people will recognize you that you may not be there. Otherwise, for good entrepreneurs, you have every stage of funding, starting from the not only funding, but all regulatory issues are now very, very carefully drawn towards the people who are developing the entrepreneurship. Government is both central government and most of the state governments are trying to have a conducive environment for the starting of the businesses. Basically, when you start with the businesses, you will, from the idea to POC stage, you have a Nidhi Prayas and many other small incubation funding is there, which can grow up to a bigger stage, which is BIG grant, and many other things are grant. And a lot of angels are also nowadays entering into that particular stage, and it grows on. Yes, there will be some problems in the system which we need to amend, and this is what the incubation system is there to do this. Thank you.
I actually got you. No, I understood. No. You're not talking about funding. You're asking something else. See, nowadays, I understood, sir. I'm sorry. Please. So basically, the encouragement for those people who may not be availing this kind of funding or any other support. See, the top 10% or maybe 5% of the startups or innovators which are selected for funding, the other people also kind of getting hand-holded. See, you asked only two things. From your question I got it. How to actually promote or encourage other clan as well, not only with the funding or other support. So that's where he's trying to mention. You please come with your problem. Okay, this is what I am having, or this is not, I'm not having. So where do you please help us? And constant encouragement is there, sir. You just, the ground reality. You have to ask help. If you until unless you come and ask us, how do that's where, see, for example, I came from Hyderabad, and I don't want to promote my incubator here. Whatever that I have, I'm trying to talking to some startups and innovators. They can actually get hand-holded, or the dots will be connected to relevant stakeholders. See, this is what the job is. So only thing is that they have to be very proactive and actually ask us, then problem will be solved. Most of the problems at least will be solved. Maybe we can discuss more. Yeah, next question, please. Thanks.
I have a very naive question. Like the startup concept has come from Netherlands, and there we have seen that in a startup there are only 2 people or 3 people, and they work with 3C: collaborate, coordinate, and cohesion. So how like suppose there is for one product the pipeline is 1 to 10 step. So here I have seen in our culture we try to do all the 10 here, which takes lots of efforts, time. But if you the 10 step, 3 step can be done by other startup, and so they outsource a lot. So how this is working in agri startups?
I'll just add quickly, then maybe others. See, we in the past 5 to 7 years, while we are funding BIRA grants and are probably buying the equipment, again replicating, your focus as a PI is just, looking into, okay, I got this equipment, my neighbor is already having, but still you are to buy, okay. And you want to do everything there, and you will be not realizing, how much time you will be spending already. And I blink, I can tell you 1 year will be wasted. So now the funding agencies and incubators, we are also realizing that, okay, don't buy the equipment. Don't actually hire unnecessarily, the manpower, and again after 12 months, again they will be on road. Okay, so you better outsource it. That's why 30% or 40% of the money you can actually outsource from the funding. That is one thing.
I think that's the question, like how you go for the sustainability and have the thought process has been, this type of challenges, because suddenly in India we have promoted startups so
Yes.
that everybody, but
Yes.
then after 1 year, 2 year, we said that out of 150 has come down.
Come down.
Because
Yes.
BIRAC or DBT or any government,
Any
they
under-
just can't keep on giving you funds,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And we are
So
facing
the trend is changing. When
so
you're
that's
talking
what I
about
mean,
the global
like,
models.
have the panel discussing more and finding out
Right,
solution. I
right.
think that's the
No, ultimately, one need to realize that, funding agencies are also changing the game of investments, or, giving funds. So that's where your question rightly is telling about, funding agency themselves, for incubation themselves, although they may not be funding today, but they are actually connected to the right partners to collaborate and to solve those problems and come back, so that you can actually get more investments from the government or private sectors.
I think you have raised a very relevant question, or the scenario per se, in terms of how do we effectively utilize the space that we have created now. Okay, there are a lot of startups, different incubation centers, different startups working on different segments. Okay, and each segment could be a pipeline for a final product of that. Now, there are some examples where the incubators themselves have connected people in terms of getting them on board as advisors on something to push the startup to a certain level. And there we have seen a certain level of success in terms of sustaining to going to a next level. Okay. There are certain examples, I think I am not getting off the mind, but I think there are collaboration between 2 startups in terms of what they could do. Okay. Now, sustaining these kind of collaborations is critical, but also requires commitment from the stakeholders. Okay, that's what I was stressing on the ethics. Like, if we collaborate, I should ask only for what much I have contributed. Okay, I can't ask my pound of flesh like Psylocke. Then it becomes little difficult. It dies down. There is no sustainability in that. So this space itself in India is very new, very nascent. Okay, though we might be 5-10 years, but it's still very nascent, and it is yet to mature to that level. Because what happens now, we will see some startups functioning in that particular promised space they are functioning in. Then they become a model collaborator to collaborate with. I can't go and collaborate with someone uh, whom I'm not sure whether will survive or no. Okay, I have to restart my journey again. So once this startup space matures enough, then we have good collaborating points, understanding where we could do it, and then it will mature soon enough. But I think we are going there, not yet there. So what I understand is it is not going to happen today, but one day it will happen.
Yeah, another thing is that apart from the BIRAC or DBT or CSIR, have you ever thought of or have you ever generated funds from the CSR aspect?
Uh, yes, probably all incubators will vouch for it. Almost every incubator has been trying to generate CSR a lot. But yes, definitely, again, it's also in a nascent stage. At least I can vouch, I have helped 3 startups by generating CSR fund going to startups, because the regulatory things says that see, a company cannot directly invest in any company, so it has to go through incubation space. So thereby, incubation space, at least my incubator which I was working earlier, we had 2 or 3 cases of CSR funds till I was there.
Just to add, we raised 3 CSRs. One is to specifically support COVID solutions by Mint agency, money printing agency, SPMCAL. Then we invested in about 6 companies, and now we got another 1.85 crores from Rural Electrification Corporation Limited. That is to establish a wildlife conservation and a wildlife forensic center in Kashmir University. So where AIC CCMB from Hyderabad, CCMB, Kashmir University, and also CCMB. Altogether will be 21st. We are actually announcing this, and also small funds anyway, because some IT companies may be interested to go for some analytics. Okay, so depending on the strengths of the incubator and also the host organization, yes, certainly some scope, but yes, we just started the journey. Thanks.
Yeah, because this type of information mainly the youngster needs. Like fund is not only.
Youngsters need to spend a lot of time in social media, because all ministries and funding agencies, they are on the social media, but right social media, I can say. So they have to spend at least half an hour a day on following these pages, and definitely will get good information.
Thank you very much.
No, regarding CSR fund is they are given to the institute only, and recently we got a CSR from HAL, and you are established for bioenergy lab, the biofuel lab for testing, training, and also promoting. All of you know that 2040 is the deadline for us to get a petrol, diesel, and 2080 is the coal. If you know coal, no petrol and diesel, just imagine. Then the next energy, alternative energy, you are thinking on that. So that's why already initiated in our campus. So those who like to work in that field, they can join us also.
Yes, rural entrepreneurship, definitely we, at least it has not come into the definition of startups, because normally we feel that rural entrepreneurship is not a scalable issue. It has to be within that region, within that village, it's mostly in the livelihood. So couple of, not only funding, couple of agencies like Manage looks into that issue. They have one very good entrepreneurship program called ACABC, which they look into the local entrepreneurship. Probably more than, they claim that around 20 lakh people they have trained in last 20 years for this particular thing, out of which what the model is that the Manage in Hyderabad, that is a organization of DAC, that is Department of Agricultural and Cooperation, that basically trains the people, not very educated, maybe maximum grads, for understanding their local environment and local businesses. Then they connect them to the bankers with the DPRs and all for small loans, and they do in the rural entrepreneurship. But yes, nowadays many of the startups have looking into the networking of these rural entrepreneurs, like Samunnati is one of the startup, financial startup, which actually is looking into these things. They are trying to find out these entrepreneurs, trying to link them up with bigger markets where there is a product, where there is a services, probably the relevant places they are trying to bring that up, so that everyone can have a higher value for their creation or whatever the problem solve they are doing it. That's what they are doing.
FKCCI, you must have heard of that, Federation of Karnataka Chamber of Commerce and Industry. They undertake a annual event called Manthan. Manthan is an event that was restricted for Karnataka state till last year. Now it is gone to South India. This year I am associated with them as a mentor and a jury, and we nurture startups, business ideas. So they, irrespective of their origin, rural or city or wherever, they can apply for that. Everything is online, and some of them are physically invited, and then they are nurtured one to one. Many over 30-40 people like me sit across the table and handhold them. So now 18th is the finals. 25 lakh for each best business idea. Incidentally, last year also one from US GKVK has come to the 6th prize. Now one is competing, one in 32. So I'm mentoring them. One who mentors will not be a judge, jury. One who is a jury will not be the final selection. So we are very clear with what we do with the students. So there is an opportunity for anybody, rural or urban. Pardon me? To have? See, all agriculture, about this year, 3 stages I have taken care of about 20. And they come from Madurai. As I told, many engineers come with agricultural ideas, small towns. They come with agriculture innovations. Very few from agriculture come to agriculture innovations. I don't know why it happened.
Innovation always happens in fringe areas.
Exactly. So machinery from Madurai, he is developing a machine to go for spraying, automatic, autonomous machine. So irrespective of wherever it is coming. Yeah.
One second.
Yeah, please.
There is one other from Department of Agricultural and Corporation. They have 29 RABIs, that is they call is a Rural Agri-Business Incubation Centers. 29 of them are there, almost pan-India. Here it is mostly their US, Harvard is looking after that at Karnataka state. They have 2 stages of innovation. The program is called Raftar, but it is Raftar ABI, Rabi they call it. And they have 2 stages. One is idea to POC and another is POC to go to market. 5 lakhs and 25 lakhs grant is there. That is also one of the things in which they give 2 months training to the entrepreneurs. But most of them, as I told you, when we talk about the rural entrepreneurship or certain things, we don't visualize them to go as a scale up as fast as we are thinking in terms of startups. That's the only difference that we normally found it.
With respect to the rural incubation center, there's a lot of funding now. The one is the Ministry of Processing, Food and Processing. They will provide the fund for that. Particularly, we can make an organization like farmers producer organizations. The technology, yeah. For that technology, CFTRI, the institute like Agriculture University. Yes, they have to collaborate. That's why they're giving the fund through the technology, the institutes like Agriculture Institute or maybe CFTRI or my HRI. So they can, through that, they're giving a lot of funding. And what the madam suggested, they have a common facilities they've created. So anyone can come and use it and pay the rent for that. So that is the one. Then next stage is export. The APEDA is promoting for export. There's a lot of money. They're also testing, quality testing, other things. They also start funding for that. And another is Ministry of Commerce. So sir told that Ministry of Agriculture is providing so many programs like a Raftar. I think when you start with a MSc student or PhD, during your research program, you can start your getting a funding through EUA. That is, BIRAC is giving money for that. The next you can go for Raftar, and then you can go for the big grant. Then you can go for the even elevated program in government of Karnataka. So these are the funding available for youth for ideation stage. The next stage we can help of the Ministry of Commerce or Ministry of Food Processing based on your line, and also you can approach any ministries, all the ministries now giving the funding for startups. So like that, based on your idea or maybe area in which you are expertise, we can get the funding. The rural is a lot of funding is given for the rural entrepreneurship. And also apart from that, we also applied for the funding in NABARD. Shortly we are getting, it is already final stage, we are getting around 15 crores, again to promote the entrepreneurship in rural area. That is rural business incubation centers. That will be established in different districts of, come under the jurisdiction of University of Agriculture Science.
Just to add to this, I think I'll just summarize because we have spoken a lot about it in terms of rural. Now, if you look at it, what happens in rural, okay, their scalability is limited. Okay, they want to replicate something. Okay, because what happens, replication of a business is required because it has to reach a mass. Okay, just because someone is producing potato chips, the other one will not stop producing. How many brands of chips do you have in market? Everyone makes money. How many brands of shampoos do you have in market? Okay, they are replicated. Okay, but nevertheless there is a market for it. Okay, that is business that we look into. So now if you look at the rural areas, as sir said it, Ministry of Food Processing and Industries, they give up to 50 lakhs. Okay, for machinery there is money for working capital as well as capex, and then there are technology partners wherein CFTRI is roped in as well as NIFTEM is roped in, wherein they give you process technology in terms of machinery, processes like drying, powdering, spraying, packaging, okay, storages, all this technology is given. And then further on, the linkage is built with EPIDA or MPIDA, if it is coming from for exports and things like that. Otherwise, if they want to target the domestic market, they do it, or they be a bulk suppliers to a large manufacturer. So there are a lot of what you call small units that have opened up. I had visited one near Kolar. Okay, they have done it beautifully. They process a lot of tomatoes there. Okay, so they have their own brands of ketchups and this thing for the local markets. They also pack it in big, huge drums. Okay, and then they send it to the large suppliers who rebrand it and repackage and send it. So the specifications are given. So these are different models that are being explored now for rural sector as well as this. So, and there are schemes that come at very small scales also. In terms of if you look at MSME schemes, there are certain schemes that are coming there, which they are given to individuals. So they are segregated into service sector as well as production sector, product manufacturing. So servicing could be as simple as hair salon, restaurant, okay, tea shops, so on and so forth. So you get funding for service sector up to certain level, 2, 3, 5 lakhs. Okay, then you have product manufacturing. It could be cement blocks, bricks, pipes, or rubber, any of those manufacturing, small scale manufacturing, MSME. So they give you working capital as well as capex capital. And but it is there is a different mechanism. I mean, there are identified banks which are banking financial partners for them. Sanction comes in, it goes to the bank, then bank disperses the money to you. So I'll tell you how the space has also improved. Earlier and it comes with subsidy also. The subsidy is around 30% subsidy comes into that. So earlier what used to happen when the schemes were new, as soon as the money was released, subsidy le liya, okay, there is no unit. Okay, okay. So I take the subsidy, I just repay the loan, whatever is it, take the subsidy and scoot back. Now the scheme, that was how the space matures. So now as of now what happens, they give you the money, the subsidy money is not released. Okay, there is a frequent visit or periodic visit for monitoring for the team. So the unit, for example, you have a goat farm. The goat farm should be functioning for 3 years, irrespective of loss or profit. Okay, once it happens or you want to close in between, so whatever loan you have taken, that will be closed with the, what you call, the subsidy money. So there will be no liability on you, and then you are exited. But you are asked to do what you have came to ask for doing. Okay, you cannot just run away taking money. Okay, we are used to that. That's why I was stressing ethics is what will drive the business. Okay, and because of that, it becomes really difficult for other people who want to work ethically. Now, because someone has done that, I will create regulations to stop that. Okay, so this is how we mature slowly.
Sir, I have two questions mainly. One is related to academicians. I have observed many academicians, they have an innovative idea, but they don't want to reveal it because the IP will go to the institute. So is there any way where we can work out this, like IP can be shared with the institute and also the scientist, and also how academicians can start their business or a venture. So can some panelists throw light on it?
The first thing is very simple. If I have an idea and I don't want to share at this point because it may be stolen, first of all, let me put it some work if I do and I find that this is going to be there. First of all, I go and try to file the IP. So that my IP, once I filed it and it is filed in the proper way, I have got the preferences over that, then I can actually share it with other people. Second important aspect in this very simple is that if you are in an institution, whether in ICR we have a very stringent policy of it, or universities which do not have that much policy. If you are working on the public fund, it is your duty to give the technology for commercialization through your organization. Even private people say if you are working in my lab, we will commercialize it, or we will, even if we take it, whatever the benefit sharing is there. In ICR we have a very strong benefit sharing in this particular thing, which you can look into that. The second aspect which you have asked about the academicians turning into entrepreneurs. Although ICR has a policy in that, but details are yet to come out, and we probably within 2 to 3 months we will come out with that person, scientist at least in ICR, if he wants to start it, he can do it with certain conditions. And many of the universities, IITs are open nowadays, IIMs are open nowadays. Probably every professor in IITs, IIM, IISc have 1 or 2 companies with them. But we are nowadays evolving with that. University has to think its own way of doing it and has to create its own guidelines for it. Even IP guidelines, like what we have very good IP guidelines in ICR, you can also either adopt or change it as per your requirement, keeping Government of India's IP guidelines in general in mind. That's what we.
We have past 1 hour in this panel discussion. So I would like each one of you to have a closing statement.
Excuse me, sir.
1 sentence or 2 sentences.
Sir, last.
So that further discussion can follow during lunchtime.
Last question.
Okay, one last question. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone, sir. Sir, I am Neeraj from UG COI Asan, sir. Sir, my question, it's not a question, but one clarification. Sir, in today's most of the startups, young entrepreneurs are, only few of them are succeeding. What's the major tricks or some points that they have to follow, or they are lagging behind in some of the tricks?
So, see, first of all, you have to have a very good understanding of the unmet need, unmet market need. What is there that is needed, that you have to study carefully. If you are agri graduate, then you go to field, you study the full agri spectrum and where there is a need and where you can fit the technology. Ultimately, in any business, I am telling, the customer is the king. You have to understand, even if you have a great technology, you have everything, but still if customer's perception is not correct with respect to your product, he will not buy. So you have to understand customer properly. Who will pay for that something? If you have a good understanding of this, nobody can stop you. It is a key to success of any entrepreneurship. government cannot do anything. Government will only give you some funds to, support in initial manner. But, to be honest, I'm telling you, people who are giving money to you, people like me who are presiding over the committees, may not have, because we are coming across hundreds of ideas. I don't have time to go through each 100 properly. This is truth. So on the face of it, we'll give, okay, this is looks good, etc. But that's a very superficial thing. But you have to be very deep into it, because you are entrepreneur. So small money can be given, but ultimately you have to sustain the business. As sir was asking, sustainability, how to actually sustain it. The key to sustenance is understanding the customer, whether your product will sell, he will buy or not, or can you create new customers. This is very important. Suppose new things, you can create new customer, that is market creating innovations and all if you can do. So that understanding is very important.
No, I think rest we can discuss later.
One small clarification, my dear young friend. There is no trick. It is not trick. It is basically you have to work hard for it. You have to go a long way. As my colleague has says, ethically you have to work hard. Don't go for tricks to succeed. Tricks will never succeed.
Sir, one last question.
So there are success stories. I think Dr. Appareddy is here. There is how we become a good entrepreneur. We can talk to him during lunch. And also there are stories. We can talk to our CEO. So give a list of the successful entrepreneurs. A young, energetic entrepreneur.
Sir,
You started engineering also. Okay?
One
Please.
last question.
Just to add to that, see, sustainability is only one thing that you are looking. Success is another thing. So please have your metrics of success correctly. Okay? Don't say that I am not successful comparing to someone else. Okay? If your incoming is more than your outgoing, you are successful. Okay? And if you have achieved the target of reaching the particular people or the particular customer or your product, that particular customers may not be in millions, if they are even in hundreds, and if you have reached them, that means you have achieved it. Okay. Second is market adaptability. Okay. If your product is not fit for a market, okay, change it, tweak it. Okay. If I have a dosa shop and plain dosa I'm giving, someone asks me cheese dosa, today I'm not. I don't want to give because cheese is unhealthy. Okay. But if I get 10 requests, okay, I should be open to give it on the 11th day. Right? Otherwise, I'm going to close shop. They'll go to some other shop. Okay?
Hello.
At least last line is asking someone.
Yes. We have activated the last line.
Sir, one last question. Sir, of course, government is helping in funding and mentorship and other things. Apart from the government funding, we also have angel investors and venture capitalists. Funding is not like, it's not a big problem. Like what I understand is R&D is one thing, manufacturing is one thing, and the marketing is another thing. So, of course, as one of the panelists has said that there are good products from the public research institutes which are on the shelves. So to market that, entrepreneurs are needed. So marketing is the sole difficulty of the entrepreneur. So when government is helping one way like funding and mentorship, why can't government can help the startups like marketing the products are really good products and services that are actually needed for the farmers or public, that will be actually needed, that will be in the public institutions or other institutions. When the startup or entrepreneur is marketing those products, so he'll be like marketing. Why can't the government?
Okay, got your question.
So why can't government help in like designing schemes and marketing?
Got your questions. Government will come in where it is required. Have you heard about lumpy skin disease?
No,
in cattle. Nowadays it's very, very hot. And ICR, IVRI and ICR NRC Equine has actually developed the virus for it. Even yesterday we had 3 companies which are doing it, and government is immediately raising the helping the all state governments, veterinary department to take that very fast and try to control it. Likewise, what we have seen in the COVID, it is the government who has been buying all the doses. So government is doing wherever it is required at that level. For routine, many of the things which are not very on the very priority things, probably leave the government for doing this. If everyone government wants to do, why the entrepreneurs are required? Let the government do
Yes, sir.
everything.
I'm saying like the products or services that are really required. And one more thing is when it comes to tender and contracts, they require government really requires like big turnovers and certain period of years.
Okay,
that
no,
has-
no. We got the question. We'll answer your question.
Sir, are there any relaxations in when it comes to startup?
Yes,
Because
yes.
the startups can't compete with the big
Yes,
companies.
yes, it's there. I'll tell you. Please sit down. We know the question, we'll answer it. There is a portal called GEM. Anybody can register on GEM irrespective of their turnover, and there are different categories of registration. Then there is a new system, Amazon, Flipkart, they are big players in the market. Okay, many of them international. Now, Government of India has come up with a DEMU, I think. There are four words starting with D. Find out. It's very easy. It's a portal, shopping portal for anybody and everybody. Your local shop owner. There's a shop next to your house. He can register on this and sell online, just like Amazon. Government of India has made a platform. Right, sir? Yeah, we can discuss during lunchtime, but it's there. Your concern is addressed by the government already. So now what? Okay.
Hi, sir.
We'll close. Please ask question during lunchtime, okay?
Yeah, this is the last one. Hi, sir, and I'm Harshita. I'm
God,
from
last one
engineering
is
background.
Okay,
My
last
question
one.
is regarding the marketing.
Never lasting.
Sorry, my question is regarding to marketing. That is, when it comes to a health sector, like a healthcare sector, we have something term called PMS, that is post-marketing surveillance. And it is very well developed and very well, they are giving a more importance in the healthcare for PMS. But how important and how developed is post-marketing surveillance when it comes to agriculture sector?
It is similarly good, and it is mostly when you are an entrepreneur, when you go for a marketing class in the entrepreneurship, they will tell you this is very important. The services which is required after post-sale services, post-marketing services, whatever that, without that you cannot survive, because it gives you feedback to improvise yourself also. If there is a deficiency in your product or services, it will give you feedback. That is very important thing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
So wait. So thank you, sir. Now I request chair to hand over the moment to the resource person. First one to Ramji Palela. Yeah. And then to Jitendra Kumar, Suhas, and Dr. K. Srinivas, sir. ಊಟ ಆಯ್ತಾ ನಿಂದು? ಊಟ ನೀನು